Hi, and welcome to the Oikos Family Podcast. I'm Sonja Wood, and today I'm going to share with you from our little classic treasure, Weed with an Ill Name, and I'm going to share Chapter 7 with you today. Chapter 7 is all about the farmer, who is Uncle James, who's looking after George and Fanny. And Uncle James, the farmer, has a problem with one of his fields because of a problem resulting from a neighbor not looking after his fields, which has resulted in Uncle James's field getting a bit ridden with weeds. So, well, actually, you know what? I'm just going to stop right there because I don't want to share too much about the chapter because it's going to follow. So I do hope you will gain something from it. And thank you for stopping by. Until next time, enjoy this next chapter.
Chapter 7. Another Visit to the Clover Field. That same morning, Mr. Gray called several of his hired men from the work they were doing. He gave them pitchforks and shovels. He took them all out to the clover field. For several days they worked hard. They did more on this part of the farm than on all the rest of the farmland put together. When the workers finally finished, Mr. Gray invited George and Fanny to come out and see the clover field again. It took a little while for them to walk out there. On the way, they walked through the healthy part of the crop. They came to the part of the field which had been overrun and ruined by the destructive weed. They understood even better than they had before how much damage, loss, and work that the weed with an ill name had caused. There were wide spaces in the field that were completely bare. In the bare spaces, the workers had ploughed under the soil so it looked like it usually did after harvest time in the fall. It was clear to see that every corner of the field had been carefully searched. In every place where they found a weed, it was carefully dug up. There were several piles of dead, stringy, poisonous weeds mixed with the dead clover. In one large, bare spot, someone had built a fire. The men were tossing the weed piles into the fire to be burned so they couldn't take root again. While they were watching, Mr. Gray picked up one of the weeds. He called his nephew and niece over to look at the strange weed and see why it was so dangerous. First, he showed them the roots. He told them that they spread out in all directions underneath the ground. Long before a farmer knew they were grown in his field, the weeds had begun to steal the minerals and water that the good crop needed. Then he showed them the long, twisted, and almost leafless stems of the bad plant. He explained how they tightly grabbed hold of the first tender plant they came near and wrapped themselves around it. Then they would immediately throw out a couple of small suckers, poking them into the tender plant and sucking out all its juices until it had died. That is how the weeds grew and spread. "Do you think you got rid of all the weeds now, Uncle James?" Fanny asked. She, as well as her brother, thought their uncle's description was very interesting. "I doubt it," he replied. "If I'm very careful to keep an eye on them, most of my poor clover crop will be safe." "How did the weed with an ill name start growing here, Uncle James? And what's its real name?" George wished to know. "I will answer your last question first," Mr. Gray said. "In this part of the country, the weed is usually called hellweed. It's an ugly name, just like Reuben said, when he told me he had discovered it here. It's probably called that because of its terribly destructive qualities. It means that it is something to guard against and avoid. The scientific name of the weed is cascuta. When we get home, I will show you a description of it in one of my farming books." Mr. Gray continued, "How did it get here? Well, its seeds were somehow carried here. They began to grow just like other ordinary plants usually do. I don't like to accuse any of my neighbors, but I'm afraid there's no doubt where the seeds came from. Let's go and look at Mr. Pearson's clover field." One glance told them there wasn't any hope left of saving Mr. Pearson's crop. he hadn't even tried to stop the weed from spreading, so it had quickly taken over the whole field. "What are you thinking about, George?" Mr. Grey asked suddenly, as they were on their way home again. "I think it's awful," George exclaimed. "You said that before," Mr. Grey said with a smile. "But what is awful?" "That Mr. Pearson, or anyone, should be allowed to do such damage to other people as well as to themselves by being lazy and careless," said the boy. "You are taking it for granted that the seeds of the weed with an ill name, as we will keep calling it, blew across from his clover field into mine?" "Yes, Uncle James. Don't you think they did?" "You think that the weeds matured and went to seed because of his poor farming?" "Yes," George said again. "Don't you think that's why it happened?" "Well, I must admit that you are probably right. It's true that Mr. Pearson's style of farming does give me some trouble sometimes. For instance, I remember a few years ago when a few thistle plants came up in one of Mr. Pearson's cornfields. Instead of chopping them down, which would have only taken a few minutes, he ignored them. He let them grow among his corn until they flowered and went to seed. Then one windy morning when I was walking across my farm, I saw the air filled with clouds of thistledown. I knew that every piece of floating fluff had a seed in it. This was the first time I knew anything about my neighbor's thistle crop. Then it was too late to fix the problem." "What happened?" asked the children. "Well, the next spring both my neighbor and I had very healthy crops of thistles. I spent a lot of extra work and money that whole year, and 2 or 3 years after that trying to get rid of them. Mr. Pearson deserves some credit, though. For once he began to work hard to get rid of the weed from his own land. Since then, we haven't had any more thistles." "You must have been so mad. I would have been so mad," Fanny cried. "I would have had a big fit if I had seen that nasty thistledown flying all around like that." "You probably would have, my dear," Mr. Grey said quietly. "I'm glad it was my land and not yours that had the problem. Now, do you both want me to tell you something that I've been thinking about?" "Yes, do. What is it?" they asked curiously. "I've been thinking how we often let valuable lessons go by without learning from them. I remember an old saying about this. While the faults of our neighbors with freedom we blame, we tax not ourselves though we practice the same, right?" George exclaimed. "Uncle James, even you don't always follow your own advice." "You're right. I know that I don't follow it as much as I wish I did. Anyway, what we saw today, and what we have been talking about, just proves those very important, serious truths, which we find so easy to forget. That is that, one sinner destroyeth much good. Ecclesiastes 9:18. And that, none of us liveth to himself. Romans 14:7. Mr. Grey continued. In the small affairs of this life, we often see how one man's carelessness about his own everyday business can hurt many others. We see this problem in our tempers and habits. No one can give in to sinful attitudes. Those are the weeds that grow in the human heart, causing pain and suffering for everyone around them. That is how it is with spiritual matters too. The man who despises God hates his own soul. He scatters his seeds of sin in the souls of others. Unless divine mercy intervenes, there will be a large crop of sinfulness and wretchedness. Mr. Grey finished talking. Since his young friends did not say anything more, they all walked quietly the rest of the way home.